Agora sim! Chegando! 2026, nova temporada, novas entrevistas, novos momentos especiais entre nós todos, né? Compartilhados ao redor de Osho, mestre dos mestres, o nosso mestre do coração, da vida, né? Botou a gente no caminho sem fazer nada. Sufi, estamos aqui! Quase que a gente não chega, viu, gente? Te
Sempre tem um.
falar, mas estamos
Já,
aqui.
um dia a gente vai comemorando algumas histórias dos bastidores HCO, a gente vai fazer uns making off, vai contar a história de making off. Tem muitas, o sufoco de última hora, tudo. Como foi hoje? Eu não tô. Deixa eu ver se eu consigo abrir aqui agora sim, tá?
Eu estou com
Boa
leituras
noite,
automáticas
Amina.
aqui. Ui!
Boa noite, Amina Didi.
Boa noite.
Divya, boa noite, Prashanto Taida com X. Boa
Prachanto,
noite.
prachanto com
Boa,
X, sai da com
boa,
H.
boa noite, Marco Antônio. Estamos voltando com a nossa 11ª temporada. Completamos 205 episódios desde o início, dia 28 de setembro de 2020, quando foi a primeira transmissão. E nós somos teimosos, porque cá estamos de novo aqui, né? Semana que vem teremos novidades, teremos uma campanha de ajuda ao HCO, divulgaremos a todos apropriadamente, né? Vamos. Por enquanto, gente, a gente vai pedir para vocês, quem nos assiste agora ou depois, que entre na página Divyazulauf no YouTube e se inscreva. A nossa intenção é o quanto antes, eu acho que vai ser no meio do ano, vamos ver se a gente consegue, migrar para as transmissões para o YouTube. O
É.
Facebook, que já tem um tempo, ele apaga todas aquelas com mais de um mês, então sorte a gente temos, né, backup de tudo, não só no YouTube, mas computador pessoal também, temos cópia de todas as transmissões que a gente fez, né? E essas histórias que, como diz, a gente está contando a história de maneira oral, né? A gente está transmitindo livros vivos. Cada um vem aqui e conta a sua história, a sua verdade, e a gente, de alguma forma, compartilha essas conexões e esse legado do Osho, né?
Reverbera com a nossa história em algum
É,
ponto, né? E a gente se identifica com isso. Além de
aqui,
ser uma
Parita,
delícia ouvir a
Parita.
aventura de cada um, né? Neste mundo.
Boa noite, Parita. Eu vou pedir para você que coloque a nossa playlist do YouTube, Divyazulauf, o canal Divyazulauf do YouTube, o link aqui. E vamos pedir que todos se
Fique aqui.
inscrevam lá no canal Divyazulauf YouTube. A gente quer multiplicar as pessoas que estão lá para começar a transmitir para lá e já ter uma audiência mais legal. Muita gente não assiste a gente porque não tem Facebook, não gosta de Facebook, né? A gente já ouviu isso diversas vezes. YouTube eu acho que tem mais alcance. Boa noite, Manju, nossa fada madrinha. Boa noite, Marco Antônio, acho que eu já falei. Boa noite, Prachante. A gente está esperando a galera entrar e está batendo um papinho aqui, né? Vamos dar alguns recados. Nossos agradecimentos à equipe HCO. É a mesma, né? Miguel Fine, artes gráficas, Parita, edição de vídeo, legenda, revisão, elaboração de nossos famosos teasers, são os teasers de divulgação, os pequenos vídeos, como a gente teve do Vidroha recentemente, graças ao trabalho muito legal da Parita. Essa arte que nós temos também dessa temporada, com
Tá
aquele
linda.
Mário, Osho ali no background, né? Tá muito linda. Nosso querido Miguel, junto com a mina que cuidam dessa parte para o HCO. Claro que às vezes a gente dá uns pitacos aqui também, mas faz parte da nossa construção coletiva, que é o Histórias com Osho. A gente agradece também, além da nossa equipe interna, nós temos também nossa equipe externa, que é a Catarina Lira, que também faz as nossas legendas, e a Priscila Garcia também, que nos ajuda com edições de vídeo que são muitas vezes necessárias. Quando trava o vídeo aqui na transmissão, a gente passa para a Priscila, ela pega a entrevista original, corta e coloca ela bonitinho lá, e vai para o YouTube sem os problemas da transmissão. Então, esse
É o que
cuidado a
vai
gente tem.
acontecer hoje,
Ó,
provavelmente, né? Porque é muito comum dar essas tremidas, né? Por causa da transmissão e do horário. Esse é um
claro.
ano, gente, que é um ano que tem Copa e tem eleição. Então, nossos streamings vão ficar mais tumultuados que o comum. Então, a gente talvez passe, né, por essas instabilidades na nossa internet.
E nossos agradecimentos ainda, nossas páginas Osho no Facebook que transmitem com a gente desde o início, que é o Osho Sem Fronteiras, que é Gabriel Sananda e equipe, Nelsânias da Nova Realidade, Francisco Siqueira e equipe. E o nosso agradecimento especial com as pessoas que estão com a gente, que é a nossa querida Sanguinha, que assiste na hora, às vezes assiste depois, dia seguinte, que nos compartilha, nos apoia muito, né? Para a gente dar sequência. E os nossos apoiadores Pix, né? Eu expliquei no início, a gente vai fazer uma campanha de arrecadação porque a gente está precisando trocar as máquinas para poder continuar o HCO. Então, basicamente é isso. A gente vai fazer uma vaquinha coletiva. Semana que vem a gente traz mais
A gente
detalhes sobre isso.
coloca as informações todas para você.
Um recado importante que a gente dá desde o início é que nós não somos um canal oficial do Osho, não temos vínculo com a Fundação Osho Internacional. Somos apenas amigos, contadores de histórias.
Histórias com Osho. Melhor que
Exatamente.
Netflix.
O convidado
Ai, como é
de
bom
hoje,
falar isso, como é bom começar a temporada, como é bom estar aqui, né? Deu saudade, com 3 meses quase, né? Que a gente
nossos jargões, né? Na
é,
verdade, foram dois, né? A gente fez a última em dezembro, janeiro, fevereiro. Vamos de volta, né?
é,
E semana que vem tem mais, né? Temos mais um episódio. Vai ser muito bacana a entrevista na semana que vem, né?
vai,
Então já vou
vai.
adiantando, como toda ação. A gente está de vento em popa com novas gravações. Tem duas indianas e uma pessoa que está em Taiwan agora que vai gravar com a gente também, um músico. Então, em breve, já temos as outras gravadas, né? Algumas entrevistas bacanas já que já estão no forninho faz um tempinho, né? A gente tem que começar, aliás, levar para o forno, estão no armário ainda. Tem 6 ou 7 entrevistas que a gente tem gravado e a gente vai gravar, continuar gravando. Então, mãos à obra. Parabéns, HCO. Já está entrando, já entrou no seu 6º ano, né? Completamos em setembro. E vamos seguir, gente. A entrevista de hoje, o Vidroha, ele está lançando um livro também, um livro infantil. Até vou ver se eu coloco aqui
A gente tem o nome dele?
no link, é Charles Sinclair. Eu vou ver se eu acho aqui enquanto
Durante a
você
live
vai
a gente
colocando.
coloca aqui para
É,
vocês,
eu
né?
coloco aqui na transmissão da entrevista, a gente coloca aqui o link do livro. É um livro infantil, é muito bonito, né? Então, a gente está dando um apoio aqui para os nossos convidados também no lançamento do seu livro, que eu esqueci até o nome, olha que danado, que ajuda. É, The Little Witch, eu acho que é algo assim, peraí. Já, já vamos chegar lá.
Já, já.
Já, já. Ele ficou de me mandar o material, acho que ele esqueceu. Mas eu vou puxar das nossas conversas aqui.
Bom, a gente durante a transmissão coloca. Vamos passar o
Tá,
vídeo?
vamos lá, vamos passar o vídeo.
Hum, vocês vão adorar, ele é um querido.
Até já.
É uma pessoa que algum de vocês já conhece.
Até já, gente.
Até
Mas no
já,
final a
gente.
gente volta.
Oh, Jamie. How did Osho come into your life?
Osho came into my life like gangbusters. No, it was very quiet but very deep how he came into my life. I mean, basically, somewhere in my teens, I started seeking. Now, if you'd told me then that I was a seeker, I wouldn't know what you were talking about. But basically, I was looking, and the method that I was using to search was reading. And I was reading books, and there was a lot of books coming onto the into the scene in America from people who were working on themselves sincerely, like Ken Keyes with 10 Steps to Higher Consciousness, the book Autobiography of a Yogi. Many people know that one. And the one that's on top, and the one on top of the heap, I think for many people, was Carlos Castaneda and this book, A Separate Reality, and then The Journey to Ixtlan. I remember in my freshman year in university picking that book up, Journey to Ixtlan, and the world was simply different after I read that. I mean, I was consumed with this feeling like, yes, there is a deeper reality. Yes, I'm going to find it. Yes, I know it's true. This kind of thing. I mean, there was a lot of assumptions that aren't true in those books, but still, that whole search that he's on. And then when I was in graduate school to get a Master of Fine Arts in acting, I remember this too. I remember this really vividly. It was back in, when was that? 1977. And I still remember vividly walking into this bookstore in Florida, kind of browsing around as I usually did, and seeing this book with a title Only One Sky and feeling like, oh, that feels significant. Now, why? No idea. And I picked the book up, and there's a picture of this guy on the cover, and I had the feeling like, wow, that's a heavy dude. And then I opened the book and read the phrase. I remember what I read. Be loose and natural.
Mm.
And I just that was what I needed so desperately in my life. And to read this guy talking about it, I just closed the book and I left with the book and read it cover to cover. And when I was done, I started at the beginning again. Yes.
And there's only one sky to fly.
Yes, exactly. And I remember one of the flatmates that was there, that was one of my classmates. He would come over sometimes, open the doors. He would ask me, Jamie, are you still reading that book? Anyways, that was the introduction to Osho, was that book. And I was so impressed with it that I was reading in the back contact information, and it had the Corrigan Park address. And I actually took a paper and pen and wrote him a letter. Dear Bhagwan, it was Bhagwan then. You're talking a lot about trust, and wow, I think I could trust like that, and that's really cool. I wrote this letter to him and sent it off, and then I got an answer from one of the secretaries, right? It wasn't from him, of course. And the answer from the secretary was, well, you should come and meet him in person. And it was like a thunderbolt. I just went, wow, yeah, I could. I would never have thought of it on my own.
What year was it?
That was 1977, I think.
77. Wow.
Yeah. And then one thing led to another, and I went to India and I sat in front of him and I took sannyas. And the hilarious thing is, when you took sannyas, they asked you from the front office, do you want to keep your name? You can keep your name if you want. Do you want him to give you a new name? Or what's the third choice? Do you want to let him decide what to do? So I thought, yeah, he should decide. So I said, yeah, he should decide. So then he gives me a name, Vidroha Jamie, part new and part he kept Jamie. And then basically he said Jamie means trust. So that was, by the time I got to India, that was 2 years later after I'd written that letter. Now, was that a coincidence that I wrote him a letter about trust? And he gave me a name means trust? Mm. Right? I don't know.
That's magic.
But yeah, I think maybe it falls under magic category. Anyways, that's how I met Osho. That's how he came into my life.
And Vidroha, what's the meaning of Vidroha?
Vidroha means rebel.
Rebel.
Rebel, yeah. And that's not because I was a rebel. It's because that's what I needed to become. I was more a slave at that point, but basically, it's been a beautiful name and it's been a source of inspiration all these years, that's for sure.
You stayed in Pune 1?
I think it was like 6 or 7 months I stayed, and then basically I ran out of money, and I was like, I wasn't terribly creative about solving practical problems like how do you stay longer than you have money for. Many people were.
How was to meet Osho?
How
How was for you the first time you saw him?
Well, you know, I would sum it up this way. I felt like I was kind of hanging on by the skin of my teeth. I was, it was like, basically I was born and raised in Ohio in the Corn Belt. Very, very Christian place. My father was a Christian minister. My mother was a Christian ed teacher. Solid Christian upbringing. And there I was in India sitting at this guy's feet. I didn't know what was going on. I just somehow knew this guy has the answer. That's clear. And I desperately need some help. That's clear. So outside of that, not much else was clear. And it wasn't like I met Osho. It was just like, oh, I was seeing color and stars and everything was beautiful after that. It was more like getting the message in Pune, yeah, you don't like your life? Well, guess who's responsible? You are. It's like, oh man, I didn't want to hear that. I wanted him to fix everything. If I'm honest, that's what I wanted. So there was, getting in line with the way things actually were and what he was actually offering. It took some getting used to for me. I mean, getting used to is the wrong way of putting it. It just took some serious letting go of ideas about who I was and where I was going. And that started happening more and more, slowly but surely. And I would say probably the period of his work that I felt the closest to him was on the ranch. And it was such a genius setup. He was having an up close darshan, which with each and every person on that ranch as he drove by. Okay, it only lasted a few seconds with some people, but what an exposure. And you know that during that time, my heart just you couldn't. It was just like inevitable. It just like I just started letting go and just falling into this deeply silent, deeply blissful place. And I remember, I think I'm going to call it a satori. When I was working in on the landscaping crew, this is another experience I remember very vividly. Just my job was to line a drainage ditch with rocks, right? That's my job. And I'm just carrying these rocks and throwing them in the river. And I remember just feeling so blissed out. It was like every breath I took, it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, and that was all his grace, you know, it was all him. It was like he was just raining, just showering on everybody there. It was so intense. And so, you know, I have to include that also. It wasn't all hardship and missing all the time. It was like, you know, sometimes in spite of myself, I managed to, how I would say is I managed to meet him where, you know, from where I was. And I had some moments where I really felt simply close to him, not physically, but just, you know, just like he's walking by my side, almost holding my hand or something. And just a very silent place inside where I just was in total acceptance. And wow, what a journey that was from my first meeting in Pune. You know, that was like fraught, could say. So, yeah, from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Wow. Well, so rebel. Let me ask you something. When
Okay.
you were in Pune, those months, you said in the beginning, when you went there first, how was the music? Was Anubhava playing the music group or that crazy stuff? That crazy stuff. I just love to see whatever videos about that time.
Oh, Sufi, man, you would have gone absolutely nuts. You would have gone nuts. Let me explain to you how the music was. Because when I got there in 79, and Osho had started doing this crazy thing where he would be doing energy darshans in Lao Tzu's auditorium, and then and whipping people up into this unbelievable energy vortex, and then turn the lights out. So everything goes completely dark, while the music group in Lao Tzu is just going nuts. And meanwhile, in Buddha Hall, there's Anubhava leading music group. And
at the
I'll
same
tell you
time,
what, yes, at the same time.
simultaneously,
Yes, at the same
simultaneously.
time.
Wow.
Oh man, it was just unreal. I remember, here's another vivid memory. I remember going to music group, walking into Buddha Hall, and the hair on the back of my neck standing straight up. I just had the feeling like, whoa, what's going on here? The energy in the music, which was not just the musicians playing, but it was like all 200 or 300 or 400, however many people were there, singing at their full voice. So it was like music group meant singing or dancing if you wanted to. You could do either. You could either dance or you could sing. But man, the energy was just taking off like a rocket. Like if you could imagine the best concert, rock concert you've ever been to and multiply that by 10.
Wow.
That's what it was like.
Wow, 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 wow. It just, I
And I
that's,
have to say one other thing about Anubhavu, because he was the leader of the music group. He was just a clear channel. He was just channeling Osho. There is just this wild, uplifted energy that was coming through that was like totally grounded in the earth, but it was like coming through all 7 of your centers right out the top of your head. And he was channeling that energy.
yes. One, yeah, I can tell you, one could feel like me years later, the energy just by listening the records, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It comes through on the recordings. Yeah, sure.
Yes, yes.
Big time. You can feel it,
There,
right?
there's no I,
Yeah,
only you.
yeah,
So beautiful. I just love it.
yeah.
I just love
And
it.
he would do things. I've started doing that in my events also now. It's so much fun. He would do things like, for instance, there's one of my favorite songs called Assalamu Alaikum. That is a real rocker, man. And you get to the middle part, you could call it the chorus, I guess. And he would put the men on one side and the women on the other side of the hall, and the men would sing one part and the women would answer them, and they'd go back and forth like this. Such a crazy way, so simple. It's like a child's game, but man, the energy that's released with that, it's crazy. It was nuts. It was wonderful. I've started doing that now in my events as well. It's just so much fun. I
Yes,
did that
that's how
actually. I
I,
did that in that music group you went to in Brazil. I was doing
Yes,
that
yes,
a
yes,
couple of times.
yes.
that's
Yeah.
how I came straight to you. Just when you when you finish, I was like thunder, you know. I, I must talk to this guy. This is a dream coming true because I missed it so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. That
Whatever,
energy has to live.
yes, whatever meditations, Osho meditation centers I worked during my sannyas life, I would gather musicians and to sing those songs, even people who didn't know them. The effect was the same, I can tell you. It's kind of, it's carried with energy,
Mm,
those songs. They are carried with energy. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure about that.
yeah,
I call them enlightened music
yeah.
because it's amazing, amazing. I had this experience here. I gathered here in the south of Brazil, in Porto Alegre. I gathered a bunch of musicians who didn't know the songs. Then we started rehearsing. I had the book with the chords, everything, and then the recording also. And then these people, they were all touched
Uh-huh.
for many days after the event. You know,
Yeah.
I'm.
Beautiful.
It was amazing. The fact I
Hmm.
must tell you, whatever, whenever this we could gather and play and sing these songs, the effect is beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I think so too. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
So you
So you
lived
study.
in the ranch too, all the period. How was the ranch
No, I
experience?
wasn't there for the whole time in the ranch. I was there towards the end. So 84, 85. That's when I was there. Yeah.
When Osho left, you left too. You stayed at the end.
Yeah,
Uh,
there was no reason to stay. Basically, I wasn't immediately, like in the next 5 minutes, but yeah, I, when, yeah, it was when he left, it was clear. I hung out for a little while longer, but it was time to leave. That whole experience just started also a new phase of life for me. He had said before, he talked about when the master leaves, you could hear that as like leaves the body or you know, maybe just leaves, you know, goes somewhere else or something, then there's a gift of energy. There's an energy transfer between the master and the disciple, and it's an opportunity. And, you know, I'm not thinking about these things at all, but at the time, it's not like I'm thinking, you know, there's an opportunity here. When he left the ranch, it was like a little death. You know, I could say it this way: the next 2 years, year and a half, 2 years was just it was that energy I was talking about before that just carried on and on and on. And I had the feeling like sometimes, my God, how did I get so blessed? I don't know. And it was this like a gift. Yeah, I could say it like that. It was like a gift that he gave me somehow without actually being in front of me giving me a gift, but it was just this quality of life that just changed. It was just like not being very articulate, sorry.
Were you friends with Swaha since Pune?
Since Pune 2,
Since Pune too.
yeah, I didn't know him Pune 1, and I didn't know him on the ranch. But in Pune 2, we met towards the beginning, very close to the beginning of Pune 2. And then, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
And you, on the world tour, you stayed in United States. How was the gap?
Well, it was a journey. I made the journey then through Europe. I had a girlfriend in Germany also. I went to visit her. I didn't go straight to Pune from America, so I was traveling a bit around in Europe for some months, and it was just that it was still that blessed kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm.
was like, you know, it was like just I have a feeling like if someone is on their way to the master, the doors just open and this person is blessed. They may experience small little inconveniences or things that they have to deal with, but in the big picture, the wind is in their sails. They're going to reach the master. You know, I really feel like existence, and I've experienced that, existence really is compassionate. It's not a joke because, you know, Swaha is my second master. You know, I had the feeling like there was, I really got a deep taste and my life was changed completely when I met Osho. But I missed a lot. I was running away a lot. There was a lot of fear and a lot of whatever, mind. And then Osho left the body and I had the feeling like, oh, well, I guess I missed then, didn't I? Hmm. Guess that's it for this life. Not a nice feeling. And then I started looking around after some years and feeling like, okay, I need a master in the body I can sit with. I need some help. And I looked here and there. I looked at Muji. I looked at Eckhart Tolle. I looked at the Tibetans. And I was even booking seminars with the Tibetans to go to some of their retreats. And then COVID hit and they all got canceled. And I was like, okay, now what? And then I started looking at these videos from Swaha on YouTube and I realized, holy shit, he sounds a lot like he's made it to the other shore. To me, that's what it sounds like. And then I realized, wow, the other thing is this is the correct lineage for me. This sannyasin, this disciple of Osho got enlightened. He's the one I should go see. So then basically that was clear, you know, and then I just got on a plane, went to Mevlana, and it was very clear this is what I was needing. And to see existence meet that even a second time was just unreal for me. I just had to feel like, wow, okay, it's not a theory. It really is made of the stuff compassion is made out of. So I was very happy.
Mm. We can relate to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understand. Because
Yeah.
yes, of course, for me it took a
Yeah.
while to understand. Well, first I saw Swaha, I have friends with him, many friends, and first decision of mine was like, I won't take sannyas because to please someone else, just if I
Mm.
feel inside it. And I was like, oh, wow, he is Osho's enlightened disciple. He is my brother, enlightened brother, but he's not my master. But because my master also kept this idea, and
Mm.
then suddenly it just took over. It was not a thinking process. It was like just took over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it's part
Yeah,
of
yeah.
me,
That's
I
how
can
love
say.
is. It creeps up on you.
Yeah.
The Tibetans have it down pretty well because most of the Tibetan Rinpoches and they have more than one teacher, more than one guru. They'll say that this guy over here is my root guru, but these three guys over here are also my gurus. And that makes a lot of sense to me now. You know, I think, yeah, because one guy says something in a certain way and it just grabs you. And then this guy over here says it in a different way and it goes through a different door. So there's something to that.
Yeah, with Swaha, the feeling I have is that Osho is there. It's the same energy, the same
Wow.
quality of energy. It's there. It's pure love, pure love.
Mhm. hmm Yeah, Swaha is certainly showering a lot of love. That's for sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's the healing energy. Yeah.
Sometimes we look at the form. The form is different, but the essence is just about the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes take a while to realize that. Yeah,
Mm.
takes a while. Beautiful. How are your music projects? Tell us. We're gonna have something, some gathering. When are we gonna have the next music group?
Well,
Uh,
I'm ready. That's not really in my hands, but basically, I will be going to this. I'll be going to Mavlana next month. And last year when I was there, they meaning the program crew wanted some events in between the retreats.
mm,
So the music group was busy even outside of the retreat time. And then in the
mm,
retreat time, we did a couple of events that were really a lot of fun. We did that one singing group where there was like 200 people in the temple, and that was fun. And that created a lot of energy. And then we also did like this combination of dance and sing meditation in the temple during the program. So that was a lot of fun also. That really worked well.
well,
So I'm hoping that they're going to want some more events and that we'll be busy. They don't tell me beforehand. Sometimes it's just almost spur of the moment. Hey, could you do this and this and this? And it's like, yep, no problem.
yes, my dream is to have these women and men two voices, yeah, and rehearsing that. It's beautiful, yeah, can be beautiful.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna if I do another singing group, we're gonna do that again. So if you're there,
That's
it'll
beautiful.
happen.
That's nice. And we are going back and forth, yeah. And I want to ask you something. When you came to Pune 2, how was it for you? What was the difference between what you see in Pune 1 and Rajneeshpuram and Pune 2? What could you say about that?
Well, I think the overriding difference was in Pune 1. Osho had a bit of a program. And the program was take the whole ideology around religion and including Eastern sannyas, what it means to be a disciple of a master, and smash it into little bits. And one way he did that was ask people to wear bright red with a mala with his picture on it and go by these names. And so to have Westerners behaving in and also take the lid off the whole, whatever's been suppressed, take the lid off. You have anger suppressed, take the lid off. Sexuality suppressed, take the lid off. And just go down the list of all of the repressions that have happened over the centuries. And it was like, wow. And then these, we would go into the world and create a lot of shock for these people in the religious communities, man. The traditional people, they did not know how to handle that. And there was a lot of feelings that came up for them, and that was as far as I know, that's what he wanted. He wanted to raise that whole structure to the ground so that something new and more truthful could come in its place. But to get to the truthful and the new, you have to experience the death of the old. And man, people were not happy with that. So that was Pune 1. And then the ranch happened and the whole world tour. And those people that had been pissed off really tried to punish him as much as possible. And not only him, but also some of his closest disciples. And I really don't think he liked that at all. And he didn't want that to destroy his movement, to destroy sannyas. So the word more in Pune 2 was go into the meditations. That's where you take the lid off. That's where you take your repressions off. But when you come outside of the meditation hall, then we need to behave in a more restrained way, if you're going to compare it to Pune 1. And it was really so that the movement could survive. And in a way, you could say he took it a little bit underground. And if you look back in history, many masters had to do that. Many masters would create movements and they would be persecuted, It was no different with Osho. So there was that element of let's be a little bit conscious, let's be a little bit careful so that we don't get into trouble by these people who are nuts. So that was a big difference. And I would have to say that the other difference was largely, for me personally, I was given an opportunity basically in Pune 2 to be a guard in Osho's, where he was living, because when we got there to Pune 2, there was again one of these crazy religious groups, several actually, that were, there would be death threats coming in on the telephone almost every day. It was like really nuts. And so it was Vasant, actually, Swaha, that saw the need for, hey, we need to get people here who could watch over the space because there's a lot of crazy energy out there and some of it's really hostile. So he put it out, we're looking for guards, and I said, hey, I'll guard.
Samurais.
So I became a guard. I became a guard on his crew, and that's where I met him. That's how he and I sort of worked a little bit together. And that was another moment where I didn't only feel close to Osho in the heart, but I was literally like 10 feet away from him in the middle of the night in the garden guarding.
That was in Pune 2?
Pune 2.
That was in
That was
Pune 2.
Pune 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
remember
that was,
working in the rose garden while Nivedanu was digging that hole to make a waterfall there. Do you remember that time? You were guarding
I do.
that moment.
I
Yeah.
do remember. Yeah. Yeah.
Did-
Yeah.
were you sitting outside Osho's window or in the garden while he was there? Yeah.
Yeah, he was in his bedroom. You know, if you had the night shift, then you were in the garden in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock a.m., 4 o'clock a.m. And one of the posts to guard was literally like right outside his window, you know, a few feet away from him.
That was
What to say?
beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful opportunity. Yeah. Just to,
It was very beautiful. Yeah, it was very beautiful. And the first time I guarded, you know, I said, I remember I walked up. I think he was impressed by my directness. I walked up and said, "Are you Vasant?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I want to guard," like that. And he like told the people behind me, "Okay, come back a little later." And he got up, took me immediately to the gate at Lao Tzu and talked to Nandan, who was one of the secretaries, and said he's on the guarding crew and give him a front seat for discourse tomorrow
Wow.
morning. So I did the
wow.
night shift guarding and then went home, took a quick shower, and I was like in the second row for discourse. It was like my mind was completely blown.
Wow.
Ah.
It was crazy. It was nuts.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
When Osho left his body, how was it for you?
Well, I wasn't in Pune. I was in Germany at the time when he left the body. And it was very challenging for me because I really was like a little bit like in the middle of the ocean with no direction. Somebody had taken the rudder of my boat, you know. And you know, there's nothing you can do to assuage those kinds of feelings, you know. It's not like you go out and you do mystic rose and you're going to feel better afterwards, or you do dynamic, or you do this, or you do that, or you do a group, or God knows what. You can do whatever you want to do, but the feelings are still there, untouched, of loss. I felt feeling of loss and yeah, just a feeling like I don't have any direction now. I don't know what to do, where to go. And that slowly, I started having some health problems, and then basically, what started happening for me is I met somebody who was doing color puncture, and I started doing that regularly, and that seemed to really, she was into teaching like different kinds of emotional release techniques, and then I started getting into the color puncture scene and started working with people, and I found that being there for other people and helping them work through whatever issues they're working on seemed to help me feel more integrated and like what I was doing made some sense and had some value. And that helped a lot. So then basically I continued on that path, and to this day I still do sessions. I still offer sessions, like when I go to Brazil, I'm going to be doing sessions for people. And it's just a very beautiful way of being with people, and it's a big part of my life. So that's kind of one of the outcomes of the whole process when Osho left the body was I started down that path also.
And
Yes.
how do you see Osho's legacy today?
How do I see Osho's legacy? Well,
Swaha. No. No.
No, I think that's no. Really, you're answering your own question. That's a very good answer to that question. Look, it's
Mhm.
I mean, Osho. I mean, if you're asking a devotee about the master's legacy. For me, if I look at the world now, what would this world be like if Osho had never come? We'd probably all be cinders by now. And I mean that. My feeling is, let's not talk about politics or geopolitics, but basically, if it hadn't been for Osho's huge, superhuman push towards higher consciousness in the collective that's on this planet, if it hadn't been for that, we'd all be destroyed by now. And he talked many times about that, using the words by the end of this century, which was last century, which means year 2000 in this area. We're 25 years beyond that now. And here we are, we're still looking and talking to each other. I don't think, just my personal feeling, that's a coincidence. I think that's because of his work. I think it's because of his presence. I think that he was what's called a Jagat Guru, world guru. He wasn't looking for an ashram with, a few thousand disciples. No, he wanted to reach the whole freaking world, which in large part he did. And somebody in a discourse asked him, "Dear beloved Osho, why don't more people who hear you listen to what you're saying?" And his answer was, if I recall, because if they really listen to what I'm saying, their life would change. Change is not something you have to work for, unless you're somebody with a little bit who will learn slowly like me, then you have to work for it. But change comes simply through understanding. And you hear these words this man is saying, and they go right into your heart. And that's where your heart says, whoa, that's the truth. Ding, 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 ding. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's the truth. What you're hearing now, that's truth. Ding, 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 ding. Right? That's a certain quality. I don't know where he got it, but man, he had it in spades. He could simply speak about things and create a new consciousness just by speaking, just by his presence. And that's what his time on the planet did. It created a new consciousness. And that's kind of what we're doing. We were affected by that. And if we're true to ourselves, we're going to be affecting other people also. And that's how that energy spreads. And that's the legacy. The legacy is to simply be who we are. And through that truthfulness, through that veracity, that affects other people. It affects the the collective. And that's his legacy. He said one of the last things he said is, "I leave you my dream." Well, what's that? What's his dream? For me, his dream was having a sannyasin like Swaha wake the fuck up, if I can be honest about it. And then once that happens, all he has to do is sit in front of a hall with hundreds of people, and they're going to get lit on fire. I did. You did. More and more people are all the time. So that's Osho's legacy. He's got a bunch of people walking around with that kind of presence, and we're slowly but surely turning that wheel of Dhamma.
There is one song, I love it.
Yes.
It's called 10,000 Candles, 10,000 Flames. You know that one?
Exactly. That's the message.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Yeah.
Jamie, before we end this beautiful talk, it's not a question, it's more to a play. We like to ask people, if you would say one word for Osho, what would that be?
Beloved. Beloved. Sufi, Amina, beloved. It's so nice to talk with you guys. So nice. Thank you for this moment.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I have to say one thing about the song you're going to play, the video. I'm playing that with my beloved, my partner, Arpita. She plays something called the swamandal in this song. It's the Indian harp. It's just so people know, and so that's the other person in the video.
Okay.
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 Of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Jai Osho.
Jai Osho.
Swaha.
Jai
Jai
Swaha.
Babaji.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Waves are coming in, waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Waves are coming in, waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Waves are coming in, waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Waves are coming in, waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Waves are coming in, waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Waves are coming in, waves are coming in.
Coisa, né? Já começar assim. Desse jeito. Ah, isso é o que eu chamo de pé na porta, assim, para arrebentar os corações
Ai, ai.
e a gente ficar assim. Não dá.
Um beijo a
Gente,
todos. Boa noite, né?
é,
Obrigado, minha querida Amina, pela
sim,
parceria neste programa. Semana que vem tem mais. Enquanto isso, teremos gravações entre uma e outra. Tá intenso o negócio.
temos. Já é uma agenda. Gente,
Boa
muito bom
noite, obrigado.
voltar. Estaremos semana que vem aqui, mais outra coisa fantástica, especial, né? Para a gente compartilhar junto. E até.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.